You do not need to detox your liver. Your liver has been doing that every day, non-stop. The problem is, you are damaging it faster than it can repair itself. Most people think that if the liver has a problem, they will feel pain. A clear signal, a strong warning, but in reality, it is the opposite. The liver is one of the few organs that can endure damage silently for many years. No pain, no fever, no signs that force you to stop. Just a very vague feeling. You wake up feeling slightly more tired than usual. The pants you wore last year start to feel tighter around the waist. Your blood sugar results are slightly off, but not enough to worry. And you ignore it? This is how fatty liver begins. Not with a shock, but with hundreds of small choices, repeated every day. A sugary drink, a late meal, a day of sitting too long, a night of disrupted sleep. None of these are big enough to get your attention, but together, they create constant pressure on the liver. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, most early-stage fatty liver cases have almost no clear symptoms. That means you could be having liver issues right now without even knowing it. And this is the most dangerous part. The liver is not just a detox organ, as many people think. It is the metabolic control center of your entire body. Every time you eat, the liver decides whether energy will be used or stored, whether blood sugar will stay stable or spike, whether fat will be burned or stored. If the liver begins to become overloaded, everything downstream starts to lose control. You may think you are just gaining a little weight, but in reality, that could be the first sign your liver is accumulating fat. You may think you are just a bit tired, but in reality, that could be a signal. Your metabolism is shifting off track. And the most important part is, no one explains this to you clearly enough. They talk about detox. They talk about juices. They talk about things that clean your liver in 3 days. But no one tells you that. The liver does not need to be cleaned. It needs you to stop overloading it every day. So before you think about any solution, pause for a moment and ask yourself, among all your current habits, what is putting the most pressure on your liver? Sugar-late eating, alcohol, or simply sitting too much every day? Because the next part may make you realize something difficult to accept. What is damaging your liver is not something unusual. It is exactly what you consider normal. Most people, when they hear about liver damage, immediately think of alcohol. And yes, alcohol can destroy the liver. But here is something very few people realize. Today, most cases of fatty liver are not related to alcohol. According to the American Association for the Study of Liver Diseases, the biggest cause comes from something far more familiar: insulin resistance. To understand this, you need to see the liver differently. The liver is not just a detox organ. It is where energy is processed. Every time you eat, especially when consuming a lot of sugar or refined carbohydrates, glucose enters the bloodstream. Insulin rise. And the liver receives the signal. Store energy. The problem is not one single meal. The problem is, this signal never stops. You eat breakfast. You snack. You eat lunch. You drink soda. You eat late at night. Your liver almost never gets a break. And when energy is constantly in excess, the liver begins converting that excess into fat. Not subcutaneous fat, but fat stored directly inside the liver. This is the turning point. You are no longer just eating too much. You are changing the structure of the most important organ in your metabolism. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, fatty liver is closely associated with abdominal obesity type 2 diabetes, a sedentary lifestyle. This means the liver is not damaged by one bad behavior. It is damaged by a misaligned system of living, and this is the part many people do not want to hear. You may not drink alcohol, but if you eat continuously, consume a lot of sugar, spend most of your day sitting, then, biologically, your liver is still under pressure, similar to someone at high risk. The danger is that this process happens very slowly. No warning, no clear stopping point. Just little by little, the liver accumulates another layer of fat. Metabolism shifts a little further off. Insulin rises a little more until your body begins to react. You find it harder to lose weight. You feel hungry more easily. Even after eating, you feel tired after meals instead of energized. These signs are not random. They are the direct result of your liver no longer processing energy efficiently. And this is the biggest mistake. Most people think they need a stronger solution, something faster, something that can clean everything in a few days. But the truth is, you cannot fix a system that has been broken for months with a 3-day solution. The liver does not respond to extremes. It responds to repetition. What you do every day matters far more than what you do for a short period of time. So the question is no longer, what do you need to drink to cleanse your liver? But rather, are you continuously sending signals that force your liver to store fat every single day? And in the next part, you will see a truth that surprises many people. You do not need to change your entire life to begin reversing this process. Just one small change, but in the right place, it can start a recovery process. You may not even notice. You just heard something that may be difficult to accept. The liver is not damaged in a single day, and it cannot be restored in a single day. But this is the part most people misjudge. You do not need to change everything to begin repairing it. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, reducing about 3 to 5% of your body weight can already begin to reduce liver fat, not 30%, not a complete transformation, just a small change, but enough for the body to recognize that the environment has shifted. The problem lies in how you create that change. Most people choose the hardest way. They cut back extremely. They force their body into a state they cannot sustain. And after a few days, they return to the starting point. Not because they lack discipline, but because that approach goes against biology. The liver does not need you to fight. It needs you to reduce repeated pressure, and one of the simplest ways is something most people overlook: walking right after eating. It sounds too simple, but the mechanism behind it is extremely powerful. After each meal, blood glucose rises. Insulin rises with it. If you stay still, the liver has to handle most of that excess energy. But when you move, muscles begin to pull glucose directly from the blood through AMPK and GLUT4 mechanisms. That means less glucose goes to the liver, less pressure on the liver, less fat is stored. This is not theory. According to the World Health Organization, simply maintaining regular, moderate physical activity can significantly improve metabolism, even if body weight has not changed much. And this is the key point. You do not need intense training. You do not need a gym. You just need not to stay still after eating. It sounds small, but think about it this way. If every day you eat 3 meals, and after each one, you reduce a portion of the pressure on your liver, after 30 days, you have not just changed a behavior, you have changed hundreds of biological signals your body receives. And the body always responds to signals, not intentions, not plans, but what you repeat every day. That is why a small change, but in the right place, can begin to reverse an entire process. But this is still not the most underestimated factor, because there is something else quietly deciding whether your liver recovers or continues to store fat, even when you are already eating better and moving more. And in the next part, you will see why just one poor night of sleep can undo your entire effort for that day. You just saw something very clear. A small change, if applied correctly, can begin to fix the system. But there is another factor, more subtle and far more powerful. Circadian rhythm. The liver does not only respond to what you eat, it responds to when you eat. Your body operates on an internal biological clock, and the liver is one of the organs most affected by that clock. During the day, the body prioritizes energy processing. At night, the body shifts into repair and recovery. The problem begins when you reverse this pattern. You eat late, you stay up late, you sleep irregularly, and at that point, biological signals become disrupted. Studies in circadian biology show sleep deprivation reduced insulin sensitivity, irregular eating times increased fat storage, disrupted circadian rhythm, increased metabolic inflammation. This means you can eat very clean, you can train consistently, but if your sleep is misaligned, the body still receives the signal this environment is unstable, store energy. And when that signal is repeated, the liver continues to accumulate fat. This is why many people feel I did everything right, but saw no improvement. Not because they did it wrong, but because they are ignoring a deeper layer of the system. The liver does not work in isolation. It is connected to hunger and satiety hormones, insulin, cortisol, and the sleep-wake cycle. When you sleep poorly, cortisol rises. Insulin becomes less effective. You feel hungrier more easily, and your body tends to store more. What is important is you do not feel this immediately. There is no clear signal in a single day. But after weeks, you begin to notice belly fat becomes harder to lose. Energy becomes unstable. A feeling of doing a lot but getting no results. That is not a willpower problem. It is a biological signaling problem. And this is the key point. The liver does not respond to short-term effort. It responds to long-term rhythm. One good night of sleep does not change everything, but a series of poor nights will change the entire system. So, if you truly want to reduce pressure on your liver, the question is not only what do you eat, how much do you exercise, but are you living in alignment with the rhythm your body was designed for? And at this point, you may begin to realize something very different. The solution is not about adding more into your life. It is about removing what is constantly disrupting the system from within. And in the next part, you will see why things that are marketed as making you healthier may actually be silently damaging your liver every day. At this point, you may start to think, so I just need to add something good for my liver. A type of juice, a detox tea, a cleansing supplement. It sounds reasonable, but this is where things begin to go in the wrong direction. The liver does not work that way. It does not need you to add anything to start cleaning. It already has the full set of enzymes to process toxins. Long before you think about detox, the problem has never been a lack of tools. The problem is overload. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, some supplements and herbal products on the market can even cause liver damage. This goes completely against what many people believe. What is marketed as good is not always safe. And here is a common psychological mistake. People like to add more vitamins, more supplements, more new solutions. But very few people want to remove sugar, remove constant snacking, remove the habit of staying up late. From a biological perspective, the liver recovers best when you reduce its burden, not when you add more onto it. Look at it in the simplest way. If every day you consume excess energy, consume sugar continuously, do not get enough sleep, and barely move, then adding a detox drink on the weekend does not change that system. It only creates a feeling that you are doing something good for your body. But underneath, everything is still happening the same way. This is why so many people fall into a loop, trying, seeing no results, searching for a new solution, repeating. Not because they lack information, but because they are focusing on the wrong level of the problem. The liver does not need a reset. It needs a stable environment, long enough to begin repairing. And this is where science is very clear. Real improvements come from reducing excess energy, improving diet quality, moving consistently, sleeping in alignment. None of these sound exciting. None of these are viral. But that is exactly why they work. You may not notice changes in a few days, but after a few weeks, the biology inside you has already begun to shift. And this is the most important thing to remember. The liver is not damaged by what you do occasionally. It is affected by what you repeat every day. So before you search for another new solution, pause and ask yourself, what in your current life is creating repeated pressure on your liver every single day? Because when you see that, you will realize a very simple truth that is not easy to accept. You do not need more. You need less, but more precise. And in the final part, we will bring everything together, not into a complicated plan, but into a simple system, powerful enough to change the direction of your liver over the next 30 days. At this point, you may have realized something. The liver does not need a complicated solution. It needs the right environment, not a perfect day, not a detox week, but a system simple enough for you to repeat every day. And if you had to reduce everything you just heard into a 30-day plan, it would only need 4 things. First, stop sending excess signals. Reduce sugary drinks. Reduce constant snacking. Create clear gaps between meals. Not to force weight loss, but to give the liver time to rest. Second, Move at the right time. No need for intense training. Just do not stay still after eating. 10 minutes of walking can immediately change how your body processes energy. Third, reset your circadian rhythm. Sleep earlier. Eat a bit earlier. Reduce light and stimulation at night. No need for perfection, just more stable than yesterday. Fourth, stop chasing quick solutions. No extreme detox. No dependence on supplements. No running after things that seem good. Just keep what has clear biological impact. It sounds simple, but because it is simple, it is difficult because you cannot rely on motivation. You must rely on repetition. And here is the most important twist of the entire video. The liver does not recover when you try harder. It recovers when you stop doing the wrong things every day. There is no explosive moment, no obvious signal. Just day by day, pressure decreases. Signals change. Biology begins to readjust. After 30 days, you may not see a dramatic transformation, but inside, your liver has already started moving in a completely different direction. And the final question for you is, if you could only choose one thing to change starting today, what would you choose? Stop sugar? Walk after meals? Or sleep earlier? Comment your answer. Because sometimes, just one small change you choose today is what determines your body's condition in the next few years. And if you want to understand your body in a scientific, clear way, without being confused by advertising, just subscribe. Because maybe what you think is normal every day is exactly what is quietly determining your health.